What up guys, welcome back to the channel. And you're here for one reason and one reason only. What camera to use to start out your kayak fishing adventures or channel. So the past 2 years, I've been experimenting with GoPro 7s, GoPro 8s, and GoPro 9s. Now, the best camera that I think that works for kayak fishing is the GoPro 9. And the GoPro 9 and the GoPro 10 are very similar. The difference between the GoPro 9 and the GoPro 10 is really just processing. So when you get the GoPro 10, you're getting a GoPro 9, but a little bit more souped up version, so that way it doesn't have any delays or slowdowns. It's a lot faster. But what I recommend if you're just starting out your channel, there's one camera to buy, it would be the GoPro 9. And for the reason, the GoPro 9 has just been a reliable camera for me. So that is my biggest recommendation. It has loop settings. You can record for the whole entire day and not worry about it overheating. I've yet to try it in the dead hot summer days, but it's coming up soon. And I will give you guys an update on the camera when it hits August, September, and etc. What I like about the GoPro 9 is it has this front screen. When you need to talk to your YouTube audience, you could really use that screen to make sure that you're in frame. That's what I use this front screen for. It's a pretty game changer. Just to make sure that you're framed right, correctly. But keep in mind that this front screen is not an exact display of what you'll get in your video format, but it gives you an idea if you're in the frame period, because you could be pointed up, pointed down, and you can be leaving either tons of headroom or you could be cutting off your head, and you don't want to be doing that for your audience. Another great thing about this GoPro 9 is it picks up pretty decent audio. So you don't need to hook up an external audio mic like this one here to your GoPro just yet, especially in the beginning of your YouTube adventures and channel. Since the GoPro 9, if you're curious, it was released in 2020 September. So not too long ago at all, almost 2 to 3 years ago. Now let's talk about what it does and why I recommend this camera. So this camera can record up to 5K in resolution. That's amazing because a lot of the cameras nowadays only record up to 4K, especially the prosumer cameras like the one I'm using right now, the A7S. It only records up to 4K resolution. So having 5K is pretty remarkable. So if you're shooting B-roll, let's say you're shooting the waves crashing onto the bank, or you're telling a story and you wanna get a shot of the whole entire environment, a landscape shot, whole entire lake, to establish where you are. You probably wanna use 5K resolution for that specific video, especially if it's a short clip and you wanna punch in or show a very detailed image to your audience. Now, another thing about this camera, it has high frame rates. And what high frame rates does is allows you to slow down the clip as slow as you want. It goes up to 200 frames per second, so you can slow down your video clips up to 20%, and it will be super juicy. So let's say you catch one of the biggest fish of your life, or a decent sized lunker like 5-6 pounds in a tournament or a fun fishing day, and you want to share your audience some extra juicy shots. Maybe you want to flip that over to 240 frames per second and then aim the camera at the fish while you release it into the water. That way they can get an extra juicy slow motion shot with maybe some cinematic music. Now, I only use 60 frames per second because I don't like dialing my camera in the day of. I just like to keep it on my main settings, which is 1080p at 60 frames per second. So that allows me to slow down the footage by at least 40%. The reason why I don't shoot 5K all day is, and very rarely, is because of hard drive space. So the more trips you do, the more hours that you record, you're gonna find out later that it takes up a lot of room. So when I'm recording 1080p on a whole day of fishing, one tournament day or one practice day, for 8 hours, I roughly get around 150 to 200 gigabytes of footage that I gotta drop on a hard drive. You might run into a place where you're hitting around 100 gigabytes to 200 gigabytes, but that's a lot better than recording 5K, which will increase your hard drive space, your storage, and you're gonna end up paying for a lot more money, and as well as having a hard time editing your footage. 1080 is a lot less stress on your computer when it comes to editing your footage for your audience. And that's why I use 1080p. Now, the reason why I use a GoPro 9 is because it has one, really good in-body stabilization. So when you're walking, if you notice in my videos, it doesn't seem like you don't read the footsteps as I go over to the launch ramp or go to my boat or go back to my car because I left something. You don't see the footsteps in the camera movement. That's because it has this remarkable active in-body stabilization that you could turn on. Two is the audio's really good for what it is. When I have it strapped up to my chest, it's really close to this region right here. And if you have a camera or microphone right in this region, you're gonna get excellent audio, just like this lavalier here. The third reason why I picked up this GoPro is because it has a lot of data in the camera and it can record in a flat setting. So the GoPro Color Science does not resonate me as cinematic. So what I like to do is I like to go into the setting, and this is another reason why I bought this camera, is that you could go into the setting and shoot flat. And what that does is gives you a less saturated image, more cinematic image, and it's a little bit more glowy than that punchy GoPro color look. And what I could do is retrieve any colors or any contrast in post-production while I'm editing. So all the data that this camera captures, which is 100 megabytes per second as the bit rate, it collects all that data. So it allows me to use that data to bring back the colors and the contrast that I want, but not to the level where it's the GoPro stock color science. Probably the fourth biggest reason why I love this GoPro 9 is that I don't run into any issues of overheating. Now, I don't use the stock battery that comes with the camera. I take that out, and what I end up doing is I buy this aftermarket cage for it. This is the 3BR Power Sports, not sponsored, and it comes with I believe this is a 36-inch cable. I could be wrong, but they make it in a 36-inch and they make it in a 9-inch. Hey! Shh. They make it in a 9-inch and 36-inch. I like the 36-inch just in case you wanna slide this down the strap and then put it in your pocket with an external battery. So now that I go over like the four or five reasons that I love this camera and why I recommend it to you guys, let's talk about the accessories that you need to get started. So first off, what you wanna do is buy the camera with the chesty mount, because the chesty mount, and the reason why I recommend starting out with the chesty mount is to capture that great audio. Believe it or not, audio is a big thing to your audience. They want to hear you talk more. They want someone more personable, someone close to the audio. So the better the audio, the better the video. That for me at least, in my opinion. And I don't throw a lot of music in my videos unless it's something to attract the audience in the beginning. But then throughout the whole entire day of fishing, I like to use the natural ambient audio and as well as my voice to really tell a clear story. So that's why I recommend the GoPro Chesty. You always have it on close to you. You know if it's recording or not. You can put it on loop mode and tell the GoPro camera to turn off to record the last 30 minutes or 5 minutes. And you have full control of it because it's so close to you. They say that the best camera out there is the one that's closest to you, the one that you have access to all the time. Now that we went over the GoPro Chesty, let's go over some other accessories that you could use. Let's talk about memory cards and what memory cards I recommend that simply just works and that's reliable. So to me, I think the perfect capacity memory card is 256 gigabytes. Because let's say if you don't want to run the looping feature, which means it's recording and until you say GoPro stop recording, it actually stores about 30 minutes of playback from the past. So once you say GoPro stop recording, it records 30 minutes previous to that statement. Now, let's say you don't want to do that and you're so tuned into the tournament and you don't want to talk to the GoPro, you don't want to touch it. I recommend the 256 gigabyte cards. This is by SanDisk. This is a SanDisk Ultra Plus. I recommend the SanDisk Extreme Plus. They've been reliable. I've never had any issues with them. I recommend buying at least 4 of them. So if you're fishing 2-day tournaments or you're having 2-day adventures, you can at least have 2 days worth of storage without having to go back to your computer, erase the files, and then put the card back into your GoPro. Especially if you don't want to bring your laptop to your fishing adventures, which is very unsafe to do, leaving it in your car or leaving it in the hotel. It's another thing to pack, another thing to bring to your fishing trips. I don't recommend it. I like to bring at least 4 SD cards. Remember, all the product links are below, so everything that I talk about is gonna be in the description. 256 gigabyte. And the brands I like are SanDisk and Lexar. So this is the Lexar 1066 128 gigabyte. And I recommend the 128 only if you're doing looping. If you're not doing looping and you don't wanna touch the camera at all day long, go with the 256. That way you can just focus on fishing. You can record everything that you capture and you know in your heart that it's rolling and you gotta cast a catch or something memorable. Okay, we've gone over SD card, we've gone over camera mounts for your chest. Let's talk about the cage and the cable. So I talked about this previously. This is the 3BR Power Sports cage. And what this does is it absorbs the heat, kind of like your computer. Inside of it has components, so that way when your CPU gets extremely hot or your memory chips or motherboard is getting extremely hot, this metal right here absorbs the heat and prevents it from overheating. Also, I just want to put a disclaimer out there. This doesn't make it 100% waterproof. To a certain depth, it does, but I don't recommend submerging this into water. It's not built for that because you have to, in order to use this cage, you have to remove the battery and the battery cover. Now, I fished this in the rain and I've never had any problems, but once you go into the water, now that might be a problem. Just a disclaimer out there. But the reason why I use this is because it's very secure. This cable's not gonna come out of your GoPro. I haven't had any problems overheating. I actually have more problems with the GoPro 8 overheating compared to the GoPro 9. As well, it has this cable, this accessory cable that comes with it, so that way you can plug into a power bank and power this all day with no issues and record all day with no duration capacity. And that's a game changer to me because I do not want to worry about this, especially when I don't have a camera guy and I'm just a beginning kayak fisherman that's exploring YouTube. I don't want to be worrying about camera problems at all, especially if I'm fishing a big tournament for ABA or KBF or Bassmaster. This is the last thing that I want to worry about during a tournament. But also you do want to share this to your audience. So it is super important that you get something reliable and try to buy accessories that are the most reliable and that will increase your chances of less camera issues. I love this thing. This is called the X-Power H9 for the GoPro 9. It also works for the GoPro 10 as well and your previous GoPros. Not the same cage, but they make several products for GoPro 7, GoPro 8, GoPro 9, GoPro 10. Now that we talked about the cage and the cable, let's talk about external bank chargers. I recently bought this as a two battery pack package. This is the Mayadi external battery packs, and it contains per battery pack 10,500 milliamp hours. This will get you through an 8-hour day for sure. The reason why I bought the 2-pack is, once again, I don't want to bring battery chargers. I want to pack less. I don't want to be more minimal. So the reason why I bought these 2 packs is that 2 days. Same for the SD cards. 2 SD cards, 2 battery packs, run all day for each one of them. And it has so much battery capacity, you don't have to worry about running out of recording time. So day 1, day 2, record these at home and then bring them on to your fishing trip. These are the Mayadi battery packs. I'll share it in the description. I think 2 of them was only $22. So that's hell of a deal. Link in the description. Now we talked about the chesty, the SD cards, the battery pack, the cage, the chesty mount. Let's talk about storage. Let's talk about storage for your computer. For editing, nowadays, most computers will have no problem editing 1080p. If you have an i7 CPU that's pretty modern, if you have 32 gigabytes of memory and a decent memory card, you'll be able to edit 1080p, no problem. But where people don't understand why the computer is not keeping up with this footage, it might not be your actual computer components such as CPU, graphics card, and memory, and your RAM. It just might be your hard drive. So this is where I recommend picking up at least a 1 to 2 terabyte solid state hard drive. And these solid state hard drives are capable of high write speeds and high read speeds. So that way you can edit footage up to 4K, 5K without any issues. But with 1080p, it should excel. You should be able to store your project files on here and your video files on here, and then work off of your internal hard drive for the actual application that you're using to edit all these files with. So let's talk about backing up footage. Let's say if you have 2 or 3 trips that you haven't edited, that you haven't shared to your audience yet, you wanna think about external hard drives. And when I talk about external hard drives, I'm not talking about some like the solid state hard drive. I'm talking about an external regular hard drive that's maybe $60 to $80 for 4 terabytes. Now those won't be as good as the solid state hard drive for editing, but those are simply just to back up your footage until you have time to get to it to edit for your audience. So what I'm trying to do right now is trying to create batches of video projects, and I store them in my backup hard drives, which I don't plan on editing right away, in those 4 terabytes and the 16 terabyte hard drives. And then when I do have time to edit an episode, I'll dump that one project into this solid state hard drive with the files and start editing it. Once I'm done, either I could store it back into the 4 terabyte backup drive if it was an impeccable, or if it was an amazing fishing trip and I want to store it for the history, then I can put it back on the backup. But videos like this right now, I'm probably just gonna erase it once I'm done editing and I uploaded it. So once I upload it, it's going to be deleted off of this hard drive. I'll recommend all the products below for these hard drives as well. And lastly, I wanna talk about what's your best secondary camera as a beginner filmmaker for kayak fishing. This bad boy. Your phone, if you have an iPhone 7 to iPhone 13 or a really great cinematic phone that's made by the competitors, this is the closest one to you besides the one on your chest. If you're on your kayak and you see some deers, or you see wild horses on the side, or you see something amazing like a dead catfish or carp floating that's like a 30 or 40 pounder, take this from your leash on your kayak, put it on video mode, and just start recording. Hold it very gently and really close to your body and just record it. And record it for at least 5 to 10 seconds, and you'll have B-roll to make your adventures a little bit more interesting for your audience. So if you see something amazing, pull it out. Your camera's right there on your kayak on a leash. Pull it out, just record 5 to 10 seconds, and just dump that into your backup hard drive, so that way you have that footage to add a little bit more excitement, a little bit more story into video edits. Anyways, if you guys like these videos, please leave a comment, like the video. I'm gonna start doing these more often. I have this whole entire setup right now, and I blocked off my whole entire day to record these videos for you guys, because some of the times I just can't fish every single day. So I'm gonna be making these videos to help you guys out and educate you about things that I've learned in the past. Whether if I'm a professional about it or just an amateur, I'm gonna show you my experiences, my better experiences, my bad experiences, and my okay experiences with you guys, so that way you guys can learn from just in front of the computer. Peace.